Yes, we actually were approached by the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, Father Richard McNeely, who was a fellow seminarian of Father Ryan's. He was also the vocations director now, and he asked us about a year and a half ago if they could make a little 7-minute clip about Father Ryan to add to their website. And
To talk to us about the new movie, Love God's Will. Really excited to speak to you today. Welcome to SA News.
thank you so much for having me.
I went to Texas A&M.
He had such a tremendous opportunity as a successful petroleum engineering student and a promising career.
He said, it's not that I'm going to do this, it's I'm being called.
Can you share with me a little bit about this really exciting, passionate movie?
Yes, we actually were approached by the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, Father Richard McNeely, who was a fellow seminarian of Father Ryan's. He was also the vocations director now, and he asked us about a year and a half ago if they could make a little 7-minute clip about Father Ryan to add to their website. And over the course of lots and lots of interviews and lots of home videos, we wound up with a 57-minute movie.
Wow. A lot of effort goes into movie making, and I speak to Academy Award winning directors, producers, and filmmakers on a daily basis. People don't know what goes in the work for a major studio. How does it go for passionate filmmakers, storytellers like y'all, like yourselves, that are trying to get something out that's so important, that means so much to you?
Well, first of all, the movie directors from Palomita Films are just two beautiful young women who have a love of Christ. And when they heard about the story from Father Richard, they were kicking off his passion and said, okay, well, maybe we need to get to know this guy. They came over here and had an interview with us, the family, and that was 4.5 hours long. And once they had that, and then they had my box of home videos that I had taken with the big dinosaur Panasonic back in the day, and it had never been converted. None of the different multimedias had never been converted. They said, oh, yay, we can use this. Well, then they decided to do interviews at where Ryan had done his diaconate out at St. Faustina, and then where he had done his pastoral year up at St. Anthony de Padua in the Woodlands, and then where he had actually served as a priest for 2 years at Prince of Peace. People sat, lined up. They sent out a sign-up genius, and they lined up from 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening. And Samilla and Jess just videoed all day long. And then the icing on the cake was we were chatting. Oh, they were about a year into it, and into reviewing all the hundreds and hundreds of hours of interview, and also all the archdiocese video and different other videos that people would send in. And then Ryan's best friends back from high school and college were having Ryan's memorial birthday barbecue party. And I was telling Samela about it, and she crashed it. And so she interviewed all of them at a barbecue, and the most amazing stories came out of it. And all of his friends are lovely, beautiful people. I love them. They're all my sons. But the big twist is that they're all Protestant, and their beautiful friend Ryan was the only Catholic, and then he ended up choosing to be a priest. So it's a lovely, lovely, beautiful testament to just friendship and everything else.
It's very important that we spend the time to humanize the religious, humanize the priest, because sometimes we tend to have only a one-sided conversation when really we have the opportunity to have a two-sided conversation. And watching the film, I really loved just seeing a lot of the little things about his life that helped show how much of a passionate person of life that he was. Can you share with me some of those things that brought excitement to his life and help cultivate and find his path?
Ryan was always interested in learning about lots of different things. And when he went in to learn something, he really researched it, and of course, with the advent of the internet, he was born in 89.
Your life, as your life goes on, you're able to access information in different ways. And I remember a story when he was trying to,
he was doing basketball when he was in high school, but he was, just like everybody else, not not anything in particularly special. We lived overseas until he was in high school, and so he did not have the benefit of any of this young sport scene, starting football when you're 7 years old. And so he came in high school and started doing all the sports he possibly could. But when he was in the seminary versus priest basketball game, he wanted to learn to dunk. So he went online and I tell the story in the movie where he ordered up all these little weights that you put around your legs to help with your vertical leap. And he practiced and practiced and practiced. And just watching him do his due diligence, with his being persistent about that one little thing, it just brought him a lot of joy. You could see on the basketball court when he actually dunked, it was like, yeah. So
that persistence and that determination for him to learn how to play basketball at an elevated level. Somebody at his height normally would not be able to dunk, but him purchasing those weights and learning what you can do to get to the next level. How did that correlate to the priesthood and the way he lived his ministry?
He actually always wondered all the things that he had done in his life. We try to build different skill sets and things in our life. And there was a point in time in his cancer treatment where he told me, Mom, it seems like God has taken everything that I've built up. He's taking all of that, and now he's giving me back what I need. And that was pretty much the sentiment as he carried forward through the rest of his seminary. He was trying to figure out, okay, where does this actually fit into me as Ryan Stallways? How am I supposed to view myself, but in this totus too, right? Trying to give everything over. He said it quite well in the interview with Jim and Joy on the EWTN clip that's in the movie, and it was in his diaconate, which is far along in your seminary life, that he came to the realization that all these little things that God had been working on, which are so beautifully shown in the movie, when he was tapping with the Tinker Toy on top of the Tinker Toy drum and marching around the living room singing Jingle Bells, setting him up for playing the drums in a concert for life as a seminarian in front of hundreds of people down at this beautiful Bayou Ballroom in Houston. I mean, he would have never thought that as Ryan Stallways, he would have been able to ever do some of the things he did as a priest and a seminarian, to be able to outreach. So it's like God beautifully packaged all these things that he was giving him through life, these adjectives of, right, who you are, how you would describe yourself. But then he could really visibly see how it was much more beautiful when God had his hand in it.
He's called to ministries, he's called to religion. I find it so fascinating. How did you take the call to religious life when he shared that with you?
We were totally surprised. When he walked into the living room and he usually sits down as his happy self, and he was standing around and kind of walking around like he had this thing he wanted to say and he wasn't sure how to say it. And when he just mentioned that he had gotten this letter to become a petroleum engineer, he had his offer letter from Noble Energy, but that he didn't know if God wanted him to do it. You could feel this amazing presence in the room of, wow, this is something big. I don't know. The first thing I thought of when he said, I think God wants me to be a priest, I just said, wow. We were happy for him that he came to that. Of course, I wondered, I said, from a personal perspective, he was originally like 2 weeks later, he was going to go discern religious life with an order. And I didn't know a lot about it, but I knew that I wouldn't see him a lot. And I was having mama heart problems, And I said, Lord, I want him to be happy. I'm so happy he's on the planet. I want him to work full time for you. Hey, who am I, right? He wants to work full time for God. But you've got to give my heart strength, because I don't know if I can do this from the physical perspective of having cared for him from cancer, not from the priestly thing.
Right.
That I was happy about. It's just that I was still worried about him from his previous diagnosis. I wanted to
Right.
keep my eyeballs on him.
Definitely. There's so many religious or so many priests that we don't hear about their lives sometimes until after their passing. And there's so many people out there that I feel like every religious should be profiled, and many times we don't get that profile until their passing. Um, can you share with me what are some of the things that just the common parishioner, the common religious, the common person, human being will get out of seeing this movie?
Well, my husband said there is something for you. There is something for everyone in the movie. And I've had many people after the movie come up to us. I've attended 31 showings so far. They're all been mostly in Houston and a couple in Dallas, a couple in College Station. We don't know how long that's going to go on, but people come up and share. They're so they're so touched. Every one of them has a different story. They're so touched by either something they're going through or something their family members going through, and how watching Ryan navigate life, watching the links between how God preps us up when we're very young. He really preps us up all along the way, doesn't he? And he gives us what we need when we need it. And watching that, and you can see that unfold in the movie, and it's sort of like your your little fly sitting on the wall, watching and being privileged to just glimpsing in. But I think you'll find comfort. I think you'll find inspiration to um, get up and try again, or tweak something in your life, or reconsider. How am I being a saint? He calls us in the movie. Hey, would you join me to come and be a saint? He in the movie he struggled with. I never knew that about him. I never knew that he contemplated all the beautiful saints that have gone before him, and he contemplated that type of love of Christ, and he contemplated what that must be like, and he sort of lamented that he guessed, well, I guess I might not be able to have time to have that life, to do it well like that. And for him to say that now, and for the filmmakers to have found that clip that had been edited out of a video, had never been shown, that just it brought a lot of tears to my eyes.
As a parent, when you bring our children into the world, we have this experience where I know I had that experience where I felt that I don't own this child. The child belongs to God, and I just need to help facilitate their path to a certain degree, and then when they found their path, figure out, there's only so much you can do at a certain point. Where was that disconnection for you, where you realized maybe all I can do now is pray? Maybe I have to separate. Maybe now this person has moved forward, and how do you disconnect being a loving parent and knowing that they have to continue on with just encouragement and positive thoughts and prayers?
I think both my sons would have classified me as a helicopter mom. I think a lot of that came from living overseas and not having family members around, feeling like you had to be the doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, everybody. Plus, my husband worked a lot of offshore experiences with his job, so I was literally kind of like a single parent. I I never was one who bought into the idea of, oh, my child is 18 years old. Oh, he's independent now. He's on his own. I always felt like when we baptize our children, we're baptizing them, and we accept those promises that we make of always guiding them toward Christ, and helping them to be virtuous and all of this. So I think parents need to take that responsibility seriously and not give up on them when they're 18 years old. And at the same time, also watching them turn into beautiful men, and seeing some of the struggles that they have, and trying to figure out which ones are the ones that are okay for them to do, and which ones are the ones that, let me just say a few words or ask a couple of questions here, to maybe redirect. For Father Ryan's situation, for him becoming a priest, of course, it's like that was a big pivotal thing for me as a mom, because it was no longer when I entered the room and he was there with 300 people. I was one of 300 people, right? I was, oh, my friends, right? Oh, there's Susan, because they knew me before they knew Ryan.
Right.
But then I became Father Ryan's mom. And um, and being so happy that all these people loved him, and being so happy that people wanted to be around him and talk to him, after mass, not going up directly and speaking to him, but letting the line of people speak to him first and waiting till the end and then saying, hey buddy, you ready to go to lunch? I mean, taking a little bit of a back just a little bit to let him minister and let him be who he is. And then that was very interesting. That was very I don't know, it's very eye-opening to me. It's very humbling.
It seems like when there's this call to vocations, as a parent, there's something that initiates that it's every word that comes out of your mouth is now quadruple times being recorded by the ultimate observer, by God, by everything you've learned and practiced. Did you feel like you were walking on glass after there was that call to ministry? Anything you said, your encouragement, your how you balance. It seems like you're on a tight rope after that point.
Well, there's definitely a higher profile kind of perception, right? Um, I guess it's like politics, when certain people become in some public spotlight. Well, then all of a sudden you're hearing about their family and everything else. But in the priestly perspective, I would have to say that God took my arm from me 8 months ago. I mean, 8 years ago. I was no longer invisible then. You walk in there's a certain persona I think that we have, and it's okay to not be able to just be a person, just be one of the crowd in a way, because it makes you feel and be more like Christ calls us to be. It's Ryan was in a drama one time where he was actually playing Christ and in the Passion, and he was saying, I really had somebody help me prep for the persona and trying to always be on point in virtue, in the way I looked, in the way I reacted to people. And after the play was over with, I loved it so much. I really wanted to stay there, stay in that. But he said, Mom, it's really hard to do, right? It's really hard. And I think for me, being the mom and my husband being the dad, we have experienced such graciousness and love from folks. They're still reaching out to us. But there is a great responsibility, I think, to just not be. I think all of us are called to be better humans.
Right.
And so it shouldn't be extraordinary for me. It should be something I'm doing anyway.
Right.
But it reminds me.
This is such a beautiful movie that evokes so much inspiration, allows you to look outward, to start a conversation, to know what and figure out what your responsibility is in life, allows you to recalibrate, reset. Why is the screening coming up in San Antonio so important to you and so important to the film?
Well, this is our first one that's coming out basically outside of Houston. And my daughter-in-law, Gabby, her mom lives in San Antonio. And she is a mover and a shaker and loved Father Ryan. Fortunately, God let my son Ross marry Gabby before. You see in the movie where Ryan actually, was the celebrant during their wedding. And so joining these two families together, I love it because Gabby's family is a beautiful, beautiful Catholic family. Grandma, grandpas, everybody, and they're just they wanted to do this. They wanted to say, "Hey, let me get my community up and running." San Antonio is such a beautiful Catholic community, anyway, and it just makes so much perfect sense, especially when you have contacts there. And I'm so happy that we've been able to get a showing going. It's up and running. It's going to be next week, April 15th at the Alamo Quarry. Um, she's been in contact with vocations office, and Bishop Gary is all in favor of it. And so we're just trying to roll it out and get as many people's eyeballs in front of this movie. It's so much different at a theater. I had no, at first when the production company had said, yeah, we really need to get it in the theaters, I said, wow, I wonder, that's an interesting idea. But she says, no, 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 it's a neutral territory. It's a neutral ground. You can invite your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, everybody. They'll all go to a movie and a popcorn, right?
Right.
They're just ready for some good entertainment that they know is wholesome, family oriented. And so do this in theaters and have sponsors that are actually, for independent films, you have to have screenings supported by a person who wants to sponsor and wants to pay for the rental of the theaters. We've been very fortunate to have those. I've been to 31 so far. We've got lots of April booked out already into May. And we're just delighted to be coming over to San Antonio. We'll be there for the April 15th one. Our family's going and will. And that's going to be anybody who wants to get tickets, don't call the cinema. Go to palomitafilms.com. I know you'll probably include a link. And purchase your tickets and the showings. They're selling out fast. And we're encouraging anyone who knows anyone who has contacts with schools. We'd love to get it into high schools so that those seniors in high schools or in colleges, right, can see it before they graduate. It's been shown in Rome at the Seminary Legionnaires of Christ. A group of guys got together there in Rome. It's like we're just strapping ourselves in on this roller coaster ride saying, okay, God, what's next? And give us strength and sleep to be able to keep up.
As you create this kind of initiative, such a grand initiative, making a movie, what can you share with me maybe one audience reaction that really calls home to you and makes you keep going to the screenings and filling out distribution, making sure it gets out to the peripheries?
It's when the kids come up to me. We've interviewed lots of children. I asked God, I said, would you please let me hear one vocation story coming out of this movie? Just please, just one. And I've heard 7 so far. and I just have such a love for altar boys, and their that whole incubation process of forming deeply, like they used to do in the old days, right? Forming altar boys in a way that they know about the mass, they know all the reasons why, and then they're building fraternity. And I think watching young people, we interviewed a 9-year-old in Dallas over the weekend, and he said, we asked him what he thought about the movie, and he said, I think this was very thoughtful, very inspiring, and I think it's going to encourage a lot of young men to think about working for God.
Wow.
So, or it's a mom that came up to me. She had 5 children, 5 girls. She was holding her 6th girl. And she said, I just wanted to come up to you and tell you that Father Ryan was praying for me when I had number 5, and that he could see I was struggling.
Yeah.
And he just came over to me and said, are you okay? And hearing all the little stories, every time I hear one more story, I say, okay, well, I got to keep going, right? And I just want to, if I can, it's like my husband and I feel like we are now part of Ryan's legacy rather than he would have been part of ours, and we feel like we're wanting to store to keep carrying whatever that is that God laid down, whatever work that is, this is kind of still part of the work.
Right.
Somebody said, oh, his ministry went on for 3 years, but actually somebody else then said, but it seems like this movie is continuing it. So,
Right. Right. Well, beautiful. So excited for so many more people to see this new film about Father Ryan. Anything else you'd like to share before we disconnect?
Stay tuned at Palomita Films for the viewings. We're adding 5 or 6 of them a week in different areas. If you've got loved ones around the United States, you can reach out at Palomita Films and actually go to the bottom of the link, and you can see a button that says, I'm interested in hosting or bringing it to my area. And there'll be people who will reach out to you. If you want to help with the team, there's only 3 people on the entire team. They get about 50 to 60 emails. I think it's every 2 days of people just asking. We're looking into going into different, let's just say the seminaries we'd love to get into, but we'd also love to get into any venue that, Father David Michael Moses in the interview is having a Fullness of Truth conference. I know you guys get Fullness of Truth stuff in San Antonio a lot. Well, this one's going to be held in Galveston at the end of April.
Wow.
And so he's tagged in with lots and lots of cool people from EWTN, Dr. Stephen Ray and Abby Johnson are going to be guest speakers. But he reached out to us and asked us if he could show the movie. And those kind of things, you're like, wow, I never thought about that.
That's great.
We're
Congratulations.
looking forward to kind of tweaking people's imagination and creativity of how they can help us roll this out. And I want to thank you so much, Xavier, for giving us the opportunity to create a little buzz in San Antonio about this. And we hope people just think, wow, I'm going to bring my whole family to this. Or I think I'm going to call up my friend and we're going to go out for movie and popcorn.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Susan, for sharing a little time with us today on SA News.
Thank you. God bless you.
Y uno no se enamora de cualquier persona. Y en el amor no existe el libre albedrío, ¿ok? O sea, vos no podés elegir de quién te enamoras. No te enamoras de quien más te conviene. Te enamorás de quien te enamoras, ¿sí? O mejor dicho, la puerta al amor